here was the question for the poll.
I love it.
I said, if you're a credit card user, what is the biggest thing holding you back from getting rid of the cards?
All right.
That's how I posed the question. I got tons of responses.
How many people responded, do you know?
A few hundred at least.
All right.
So this is anecdotally, this is science basically at this point.
Yes, that's right.
And I got a lot of the natural responses that we've gotten for 30 years, right? It's the points, the cash back, the rewards. I love getting my free flight. I need it to book hotels and rent cars. And I got to keep up my credit score so I can get a house and get car loans and all of these things. But the one that shocked me, Ken, a lot of people said fear.
Fear of?
Just fear. So I dug in. I DM'd, I said, tell me more about that. Elaborate.
Yes.
Because that means a lot of things to a lot of people. Some people did admit, they said, hey, this is a safety blanket. It's a crutch. If something goes wrong, I know I'm covered with my line of credit, thanks to 28% interest from the credit card companies. What a blessing.
Right.
But I wanted you to address this idea of fear because you've been leading a financial peace class virtually, and this has come up a lot when it comes to the $1,000 emergency fund scares me. I can't cut up the card because what if?
Right.
There's so much fear, and some of it stems from their childhood. They told me, hey, I grew up poor. We grew up not having money. We grew up where if one paycheck didn't show up, we were screwed.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of empathy for those that have that fear, but you've talked a lot about this on your show, whether it's career or money. Fear is holding people back in a whole lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, a couple things on that. Most of the time, if you actually look at the data, the things that we worry about, which is another placeholder for fear, because I think fear is defined as I'm worried that something bad is going to happen. I just think that's the way I define fear, and I think that's really true. And so most of the time, the things we worry about rarely happen. So that's just some basic psychology study right there, where they the things we worry about most of the time never actually happen. So there's that. The second thing is that people are afraid that they're going to be destitute, broke, so far behind the eight ball that they never recover that they forget that the credit card's going to hit them for 28%. Versus, and let's give you a real life example. Let's say an HVAC system goes out. Okay, because this is one of the things that popped up in our FPU class. I've got an old HVAC system. I'm going to have to replace it. It's on its last leg. I don't want to be in the house all summer in sweltering heat, not be able to sleep. And by the way, I get all that. I don't minimize any of that. It's like, yeah, I get it. All right, so they think the credit card then is the safety net. So if we have to put $8,000 into an HVAC system or $6,000 or whatever it is, well, we put it on the credit card, no problem. But now we're paying 28% interest, as opposed to going to the HVAC company and going, hey, here's my situation. Here's my financials. I need this HVAC system. We're stuck. So we either are with ceiling fans and just fans and whatever we're gonna, or we replace it. Let's say it's in the wintertime. And you go to the HVAC company and go, listen, I can cash flow this, and I will cash flow it. And just having a human conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
But just relying on the credit card puts you in more stress and more problems because while you take care of the immediate need, you're stuck with it for a long time. And so I think it depends, George, on the specific fear. But a lot of people just feel like I'm not going to be able to be comfortable and take care of my life. And Les, who was on with me, one of our FPU coaches, we talked about AC going in my car one time. It went. And this was when we first lived here in Nashville the first time, and we were working the baby steps. And I couldn't afford, I could have, but I didn't want to stop the momentum. So, George, I got up earlier and drove into the office an hour earlier so that I wasn't sweating profusely to get into the office.
That's a creative
And at the
move.
end of the day, it didn't matter. I was going home. And then one day I was driving home, George, and insult to injury, I came up to a stoplight. It was almost like the debt gods were trying to embarrass me. I got no AC. I'm sweating, hair all over the place because the windows are down. And that, I don't know what you call that, your roof liner inside the car, just all of a sudden detached out of nowhere, and it was sitting on top of my head. I felt it at a stoplight, and I look up, and
boy.
And you know how embarrassing that is?
Yeah.
Because you think that
That's a
everyone
no
at the
good, very
stoplight
bad
is
day.
going, look at this loser over there. It's 100 degrees in Nashville. He's got the roof interior carpet hanging on his head. I went home, was so mad I got the staple gun out of the storage.
That's therapeutic right there.
2 staples in the top took care of that problem and it cost me nothing.
Wow.
But what are you afraid of?
Yeah.
You afraid of being embarrassed at the stoplight? I get it.
That's a good question. A lot of people they're very optimistic when it comes to their own stupidity. They're going, yeah, we'll pay it up. We're going to open the car. It'll be great. They're very optimistic when it comes to justifying their spending habits, their decisions, and very pessimistic when it comes to following a proven plan. Where they go, yeah, having $1,000 is scary, and you should be scared. And the problem is when you have the credit card still there, you have a false sense of security.
Yes.
You have a false sense of comfort. And the book, The Comfort Crisis, you guys have been talking about this a lot with Dave. I think we're too comfortable. I think part of the reason America is where it is today, broke, in debt, anxious, miserable, stressed, is because we're aiming for comfort and convenience and the easiest path, the path of least resistance, the most convenient path, instead of going, dang it, I really got to work that extra job to get out of debt even faster. And that's what I love about baby step 1. I don't love that you're scared to death, but I love that it puts a fire under you to go, I wasn't safe ever. I had the illusion of safety.
That's right.
And then once you have the emergency fund in baby step 3, you got out of debt, you don't need the credit card. Like, George, I don't understand that mentality of what if.
Because I don't think that they've been taught this. So I think this is I want to tee you up to teach on this. Let's say that the thing happens. We've got $1,000 in baby step 1, but then a $7,000 or $8,000 or $10,000
or even a $1,500 expense. They go, well, it's not enough, Ken.
Yeah, but my point is they're all worried about this big thing above and beyond $1,000.
Yeah.
What do you teach? What would you tell them if you're sitting one-on-one with them and go, okay, this is $7,000, $8,000. You only got $1,000. What are their options?
Well, number one, we say pause the baby steps.
Right.
If you've got kind of a storm. And in that case, we're going to pay all the minimums on the debts. We're going to cover the basic bills. Everything else, all the luxuries, they're out the window right now because we got to sell everything we can, work as much as we can to find that gap, to make that margin. Once you've got that expense covered, we're back on track. We're attacking the debt. And in most situations, I've seen they end up not needing the full $1,000, or they pause it and they end up cash flowing it. And make sure you have the right insurance in place. This is something we teach because most emergencies, a health emergency, you're going to have up to your deductible and then you're covered.
Right.
And auto insurance, make sure you've got the right coverage there. These kinds of things help me sleep at night to make sure that I'm covered in case of something crazy happening. But a lot of times it's psychological and it's them justifying why they want to keep the card around.
George, the old phrase where there's a will, there's a way. In other words, it means, if I'm willing to figure it out, I'll find a way.
Mm-hmm.
Do you poke holes in that when it comes to this very scenario, or do you believe that holds true? I'll find a way to not use a credit card. I'll find a way to pay it off. I'll find a way, but I'm not going to use a credit card for an emergency.
Well, when you take debt off the table, if you just, in your mind, pretend and go, credit cards are not an option, debt is not an option, what would I do? If this was the 1930s and debt wasn't marketed as heavily as it is today, what would I do? You'd go, all right, I'm going to go sell some stuff. I'm going to go get the side job. I'm going to cut down all my expenses to bare bones. I'm going to work out a payment plan with the HVAC guy to pay this thing off, and we're going to figure it out. So my challenge to everyone out there is, could you live 90 days without using your credit card? Put it in ice in the freezer, lock it up somewhere, stick to a debit card and cash for 90 days. And DM me if you're going to do this challenge. I want to report back 90 days from now and see how it changes you financially, spiritually, emotionally, if it gets you further down the line to where you want to be financially.
Wow, I love that, George.
Good challenge.
At George Camel on the gram.
Right there with a K. Don't wear it out.
And if you're over the age of 50, that means Instagram.
Thank you for that caveat.